We are gathered on the unceded traditional territory of the Madawaska and Ishebeg people, specifically the people of the Madawaska River. We further acknowledge that the Algonquin people have been stewards of this land since time immemorial, and we strive to treat the land along with its flora and fauna it supports, the people, their customs and traditions with honor and respect. Today, this area is home to people of all walks of life, and we acknowledge the shared opportunities and responsibilities to live, work, and survive within this beautiful territory, achievement which all my relations. Any additions or amendments to the agenda? If there is none, could I have the adoption of the agenda? Need a mover and seconder? Ethel and
I'll second it.
And this is where I need a motion, do I, to carry or?
Yes.
To carry. And any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, then we'll go on to the adoption of the minutes of April 12th, 2023, and be approved as submitted. And
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes.
I'll second it.
great, all those in favor? Wonderful. Then approved. I now will hand over the meeting to Tracy Cannon for the public hearings.
Good morning, everyone. This morning we're considering a minor variance application MV 2023-02. It's for properties locally known as 1552 Ayland Lake. I believe Mr. Marsh is here with us today. Welcome to our meeting. He's the owner and applicant of the property. So the purpose of the application is to request permission under Section 45 of the Planning Act to enlarge an existing legal non-conforming use. On page 9, Brian, if you don't mind going to it, it shows what the site plan of the property with the proposed addition and setbacks from the lake will be. The subject property fronts Ayland Lake and is currently improved with a legal non-conforming one-story cottage. It also has a bunkie in the shed. The proposal is to add a one-story addition to the existing cottage that would roughly double the size of the building footprint. The existing cottage is located about 60 feet from the shoreline, and the addition would be located about 35 feet from the shoreline. So in the review of the application, the planners had recommended or had instructed a environmental impact study, and it was prepared by Ravenwood Environmental. And the study concluded that despite the expansion being located closer to the shoreline than the existing structure, that there would be no adverse impact on Ayland Lake or other adjacent natural features. And as a result of the new construction, the proposed building envelope is entirely located within a historically disturbed section of the cleared land on the property. So it's not disturbing any additional land. The application is the notice is required to be circulated 60 meters of the subject property, and that was done on June 2nd. And the sign was posted by Mr. Marsh on June 5th. And the comments from the planner outlined in the plan report, and EIS study was included in the package as well. And there was no other public comments received. So I'll put it out to the committee. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the proposed addition?
Just comment, it was kind of hard to go and have a look at it.
Yes. It is a water access property, so
We've got water on two sides.
yes.
Is there any reason that we can't the addition can't be put on the other side?
We discussed that previously with Mr. Marsh. Do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, it's fine. It's actually not for the subject field with the wall.
Obviously, with the larger property, the septic is large enough to take the potential for additional people in there.
Right.
It's
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to read this, I'm sorry, so.
It's really more of a just a open room and dining room.
Okay.
We've got the three COVID grandchildren. 2 years.
You need space, yeah.
just for my own reference, how far south of the, I think it's former Henry property?
That's the one up the river there, I think.
Yeah, it comes in Boundary Lane. I'm just wondering how far it is from that road.
Well, quite a way, it's, yes, I would say,
Oh, that far, okay,
boundary winds by,
yeah.
and over that, culvert and bridge, I think, so
Yeah.
that property you're referring to,
Mhm.
so we'd be at least,
Okay,
So if I understand this, the minor variance is because it's not the 60 feet away from the shoreline. And that's why the impact study was
That's
done.
right, because it's a sensitive lake.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
it's a very extensive
Report.
report.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must cost a little bit of money.
it did, but, you know, when it was well worth it, she was very, very interesting.
Yes.
I really actually enjoyed it, talking, but it was really enjoyable. to be able to do it.
It was interesting to read the, about Avon Lake. It was very informative. Like, there were some things in there that I didn't know about Avon Lake. That
Me too.
was- Yeah.
And I live.
Very interesting.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Mead?
So it's basically just gonna be a dining room, extra living space,
Yeah, it's just
or
basically,
gathering space, you should say.
it's a pretty small little cottage up there now, and it's just, you haven't got a place to sit and eat and actually see the porch, so if it starts to rain, they kind of run for trouble, we get covered. Really like that.
But the kitchen's going in the addition.
Well, it's actually already in the one corner of the cottage.
Okay.
That's debatable, really, the other side of the wall, and I like to be able to do it just a hassle for me, to be honest with you.
Okay, so do you have any further comments? Yeah,
No, just what I guess the only thing I could say is we really went through the study quite deeply with the grant. One of the only conditions she came up when I was there with her on site was the sediment barrier. So I understand, how that works. All the working with, he's a very well-known contractor, and it's trenching and staking, it'll be done properly, so there's no sediment. So
Running into the lake.
running into the lake without kill it. That's all in place. It's really just an expansion for my family.
I don't have any problems with this. I think it's well thought out and done a lot of work on it. So, well, thank you very much.
And there's gonna be no, to the shoreline, there's gonna be no disruption of the shoreline?
No.
Any further disruption, I should say?
Okay. Absolutely not. The other thing, I guess, you can't really, I have no way of really describing it, but it's up quite a bit. It's quite a taper down. So.
Looks like a very sensible thing, something that we'd all wish that we could do. So it makes a lot of sense, yeah.
okay, so, with nothing further, I believe we could probably go to, the motion for the decision. On a motion,
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendations for the, to grant the variance.
I'll second.
okay, that the committee of adjustment approves the recommendation and conditions outlined in the planner's report prepared by Anthony Homics and your senior planner of JP2G Consultant, and that the minor variance application number MV 2023-02 be subject to the conditions outlined in the planner's report. discussion? Carrie? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I called on a vote. I better do that first. Mayor LaValley? 4. Counselor Collins?
4.
Counselor Florence?
4.
Counselor Kuya? 4. Counselor Pijak?
4.
Counselor Rodnick?
4.
Counselor Sidoc? 4. Now I can say carried. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to come out here today. And I know probably you had to come across the lake this morning
Well,
and.
I actually came up last night.
Oh.
I didn't want to be late. I didn't want to be not getting here, so.
No.
I'd like to thank everybody for your time and for being on the agenda. The comment, Tracy's been very, very helpful getting me through the whole process. I've never been through this before, so thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Council. That was good fun.
And I'll be in touch.
Thanks very much.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Seeing that there was nothing else on our agenda, the next meeting will be scheduled when required, and I believe Tracy already told me in September.
I just had I came in late yesterday afternoon and I just wanted to bring it up now because it's going to go to the council meeting. Back when we passed a consent for it's called the Chulu Carroll consent. It was on Alien Lake where we took ownership of the shore road allowance. We're at the stage now where we can transfer that back to the owners of the property. So I'll draft there's a bylaw that I have to review yet, just like I said, came in late yesterday afternoon, but it'll be into the next council package. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind that that's coming and we'll get that passed. I'm not here for that meeting, but I'll try to do a little report just as a reminder to that's what's happening.
That's the one where the 2 sections were added to the one property?
That's the one on Alien Lake.
Okay, yeah.
And that's all.
Great, thank you. We'll adjourn the meeting. I just need a motion to do so. Mover and a second.
I'll move it.
Great, all in favor? We are adjourned at 9:14.
We stayed at 9:15.
you, Jane. Okay, good morning, everybody. It's 9:17 and I would like to open the meeting, call to order our Human Resources Admin and Public Relations Committee meeting. And obviously I'd like to call that to order. Present, we have Mayor LaValle, myself, Councillor Florence, Councillor Kuyak, Councillor Pigeon,
Councillor Rodney.
Councillor Rodney,
Okay, Councillor.
and Councillor Vidoc. Sorry, mental block here. And we have Forbes Simon, Senior Planner, with us today as well. Are there any additional amendments to our agenda?
No, I forgot it at home. I'll do it at the asset management meeting.
You may regret that.
Pardon me?
I was just wondering about grant updates and emergency management evacuation plan, because there's been some interest. I don't know if you want that under business or.
Probably best to bring it forward to Brian, because
Okay.
he's the
I guess,
CEMC, so
Yeah,
we can arrange to bring him into a meeting at some point if you would like.
wonderful.
Maybe the asset management meeting?
Oh, it's funny.
What is it?
It's,
When is it?
we'll go over the agenda later. It's full.
Monday. When's that?
Monday.
Yeah, we should have had that agenda 2 days ago, right?
We just got the asset management this morning.
Didn't want to confuse you.
So do I take it then that we are not adding anything to
No.
the
that's all
agenda?
right. That's fine.
Okay, can I have a proposer and seconder to adopt the agenda, please?
Moved.
That's Councillor Mayor LaValle
I'll second.
and seconded by Councillor Farren. Before we continue, is there anyone that would like to disclose a pecuniary interest?
Yes, me with the short-term rental policy.
You
Okay,
might want to ask for a vote on adopting the agenda as well.
Yeah, we didn't vote on it.
oh, I'm sorry. Let's backtrack then. Can I have a vote? We had it forwarded and seconded. Can I have a vote for adoption of the agenda? All in favour?
There.
Thank you, carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, we have you, Councillor Kuyak. Anybody else disclose a pecuniary interest there or perceived pecuniary interest?
Who knows?
Okay,
How do I say that, I may? But I
perceived.
don't own, yes, because I manage properties, but I do not own rental properties. I don't know how that would work.
I don't know.
I think that may well be perceived pecuniary interest.
I'm not supposed to provide that advice.
We voted in February.
If we're going to get down technical to the legislation, no. Because this is a policy affecting the greater community and not just you as an individual. It's much like setting a tax rate, it affects you, but it's the policy in and of itself is not affecting you to any greater degree than any other member of the community.
So it is or it isn't?
It is not.
It is not, okay,
It is probably for me.
okay. All right,
The owner, operator.
Okay,
thank you.
thank you, Councillor Pigeon. Can I pass over to you, please, our senior planner? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you wanted to start with the official plan or the short-term rental?
The second draft of the official plan, please,
All right,
as per our agenda.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. So you've had this with you for some time now and had a chance hopefully to go over the changes and that they were clear. What was being removed and what was being added. We have a couple of options. We could go page by page, and then if some people have comments, we can do that. Or we could just do a once around the table and have everybody provide their comments and we can discuss them as they come forward. How would you like to move forward with this, Chair?
Have we all had a chance to have a read through this? Because it's very clear with the red lines between what's been removed and what's changed, etc. It's very straightforward to zone in on areas that you may have been interested in. I think questions around the table may well be the best way. Obviously, someone has to make their first question. Does anybody have any questions before we start, really?
I've made notes.
Okay, thank you.
I'd say I could couple too.
You
Great.
are wonderful, thank you. Can we start with you then? Councillor Keogh, thank you very much.
Sure. I just was wondering if the official age of a senior is 55, because that's what it states in here.
It is for the federal government for
Okay.
taxation.
Wonderful. That's great.
I
That
think
was
there's a
my
lot of
question.
55-year-olds that would question whether they're a senior. There's some 65-year-olds that would question whether they're a
Didn't
senior.
realize that. Some of my notes were because it was pertaining to something else. And it was interesting when I was starting to read the housing. It was basically talking about the garden suites, and it says that they should remain on the lot for no more than 20 years.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I think it's important, Councillor, to have a discussion about garden suites or granny flats and additional residential units. Granny flats, garden suites were introduced into planning world in the early 90s, and they made specific changes to the Planning Act. And that was the first exception to one property, one house, right? And it was quite a transformative moment, actually, that all of a sudden we're being told we can put additional units on properties. And so they started out as they made them temporary use zoning, so that if mom no longer needed the unit, it would be removed. I did have some that were originally designed as a garage and then retrofitted to an apartment, and then after mom didn't need it anymore, it was converted back to a garage. So they didn't have to remove the unit, but it was always under the Planning Act, a temporary use. Now with additional residential units, there's virtually no difference in the use and the function and the size and the look between an additional residential unit and a granny flat. Granny flats are almost redundant now, but there is one situation where I would suggest to you it's worthwhile keeping it in your planning tool belt. Temporary use zoning does not have to be as concerned about official plan policies or provincial policy statement policies. It's an exception, it's a short-term exception. And it might be that there's a scenario where an additional residential unit won't work because of lot size or location, where the granny flat might be an option. And so I've suggested that they stay in there, but the regulations governing granny flats are straight out of the Planning Act.
I do have 2.8.53 sort of starred. And my little note was if less than 1 hectare can you still build. So it says building permits for AURs are on lands less than 1 hectare in size may require supporting information,
Right.
that it can be serviced by private well and septic system. So,
And that's going back to our issue where council has a responsibility to ensure that future lot creations and future development have potable water. And it's the frustration that we have that if you're going to have a lot less than 1 hectare, the practice is you have to do a hydrogeologic study to say you've got good water. The same holds true when you're intensifying the use of an existing property. You've got a 1 acre lot and you want to put in an ARU. I don't have issues with it, but you gotta do something to show that you've got the water and the septic system to be able to support this new set of plumbing and
Right.
accommodation. So that's where that's saying, typically what most municipalities are doing is permitting ARUs as a right through zoning where they meet the minimum lot size and minimum lot frontage. Right? And then you put in this process through the committee of adjustment to be able to consider smaller lots, but they need to have some supporting information for us to be able to have confidence that says, yes, this is good development.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Mhm.
Did it cause other questions?
Mela Valley.
And not so much a question, but a comment. I remember the last meeting, the meeting before that, this issue was raised because within this township, there was somebody that had approached saying they had land they'd like to sell. They had land that they could open up for housing, was a whole housing thing, but the land was less than an acre. And I think we had a discussion on that and was recommended that we leave it, or that would be left as an acre. Do you remember that?
I'm not quite catching up with you, man, on that one. I'm
Well, we had
afraid.
someone that said that he would consider,
Doing develop an affordable housing project, but he only had an acre.
that it should be less than an acre, because because an over an acre wouldn't work for them or him.
Yeah. And that's the issue. I think we can have policies that allow for smaller lots to be created. Okay, but they have to, in my opinion, to meet provincial legislation, you have to have the studies that say, yes, this property can be supported by well and septic system at the size less than a hectare. That's the province has set that number.
That's it.
Apparently, it's based on science.
But
that policy creates another problem when somebody wants to subdivide a larger property. Because you can only subdivide it in 1 hectare lots,
Yes.
which. If you're going to use a normal frontage on a road, it's like 300 meters deep.
yeah, you end up with something in the neighborhood of 60 meters by 250 thereabouts.
Yeah.
You're right. And creating a hectare lot, especially when you get into your villages, is
Impossible.
terrible. And I think that the areas that I've sort of landed on all of this is that you can put in policies to allow for smaller lots. You can put in a policy that says the minimum lot size is an acre. But when they go to do it, they have to do these studies, right? So there's an extra $10,000 potentially on top of the cost of creating that lot. I know one of my jurisdictions, they actually have the official plan that allows for the smaller lots. It triggers the hydro G. They've changed the zoning to recognize the smaller lots, but it's still, you still have to go through the process of proving that you can put well and septic on it. That may be an approach to take here. It's just, it adds a price tag to development that with a hectare lot, you don't have to incur.
If somebody was dividing or creating multiple lots or more than one? Would he have to do more than one hydrological study or just one hydrological study?
That's a great question, and it's one I actually asked my engineers about 3 months ago on. And there's, the well is to be representative of the area. That's the way the legislation talks, and it's been interpreted to be sort of plus or minus 200 meters from where the property is. Quite often, there'll be a house within that 200 meters that you can get a raw water sample from. And so typically what we look for is within 200 meters of the property, if there's another source of water. If there isn't another source of water, they have to drill the well to get them, right? But if there is a source close by, you can certainly benefit from that. And in an urban context, in your villages, there would be no problem finding a well within close proximity to draw from. And they would test, and they would test for volumes, recovery rates of pump downs and things of that nature, and then do a general assessment of bedrock. Right, there's usually a test pit that's done for septic and the well. The two go hand in hand.
Okay, the next statement was affordable housing is encouraged in the township in the form of garden suites, additional residential units and tiny dwellings. Because one of the conversations is short-term rentals. Should it be more specific than saying that this is for personal use only, or does it matter?
What specific policy is it there that the affordable housing is encouraged in the form of garden suites, additional residential units, tiny homes, as well as other innovative?
Right. So if you're encouraging that, it would mean like Sean could go and put a garden suite up there and then, you know, say, oh, this is gonna be even a short-term rental.
Yep.
Or a long-term rental.
Yeah.
Is that
Well, the short-term rental and the long-term rental, I think, is a separate issue altogether.
so this wouldn't be included in
That
this?
wouldn't be included. The short-term rentals are identified as tourist accommodation
Yeah.
and not residential accommodation. I think in my report on the short-term rental, you know, one of the downsides is that it erodes the number of long-term rental units, and the kids that come back up in here and work in the park and the resort industry, they don't have a place to rent anymore, right? That's an issue, but that's short-term rentals are not under an affordable housing banner, and typically are contrary to affordable housing.
So the next one was non-conforming activities. And it says legally existing uses that do not comply with the land use designation outlined in the plan at this time. That it limited expansion of such uses may be permitted, provided that the objectives and development policies of this plan are met. And I just was like, I don't understand that. And could you
What page are we?
29,
29.
and it's 2.23.1. So it's just legally existing.
I may be looking at the wrong version.
You have a different version now.
It's 231. Yeah, no, I've got a different version. I'm working from. I apologize.
29 is not in the one that's been listed on our website either. So.
You're all looking at my version.
Where were you?
It is fine. 2.23.1.
Non-conforming, 2.15.
2.15. All right. I've got an older version or a different version here. I apologize for that, but the non-conforming, no, I think it's okay.
Activities. I just didn't, if you could give me an example
Of a non-conforming activity, yes. So non-conforming relates to use. So the classic example I use is that you've got an accountant that has run his business out of a house. It's been he converted the house to a business, And it's been like that for 30 years. That office use is not permitted in the R1 zone. Right, he would be legal non-conforming and they would be able to expand that accounting business. The committee of adjustment would be able to get involved and say, if a doctor wanted to come along and take over the accountant's office or a real estate agent or something like that, you know, would that be something that's similar? That's legal non-conforming, right? That's where the use is not permitted, but they've been in place before the rules.
Okay.
Legal non-complying is where the use is permitted, but they don't meet like the water setback or the side yard setback or lot coverage or something like that.
So we would have had that here, you might remember that, John, when, Bobby Reagan had the insurance business right on Lake Street.
Right.
Well, and then he got sick, he got sick. I don't know what our plan was then, if we had one, but that would be an example, I guess, based on.
That would be a good example, but we didn't have one at that time, so.
No, I didn't think we did.
So if it's existing before the official plan, it's fine, and after this has come in, anything changing would have to go through the committee. of
They'd have
adjustment.
to be approved, yeah.
All right, thank you, this is more of a learning thing for me than.
No,
anything.
that's great.
And then, the short-term rental accommodation, the second point there, the township may, I just thought it should be more definite instead of may.
Where are you, John?
Next page,
2.19.
So the reason that may is there is because it is your discretion whether you
Okay.
want to or not. You are not bound by any planning legislation to have bylaws to regulate short-term rentals.
okay,
So I think where it's at the discretion of council, my tendency with policy is to put the name.
okay, that's fine. I just did some.
Does that
of
make
the-
sense?
Yeah, no, that's okay. Some of the wording, it was just, you know, it's.
Wishy-washy wording?
Pretty well, the use of that all the time just drives me nuts, but that's okay.
Well-
The use of that.
Conditions that must,
Well, just the word that,
I'm sure.
that's okay.
May, the word may just gives you a little latitude.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
It's discretion.
That's right.
Then back in waterfront areas, I guess, we're going,
I need section numbers.
to 5, yeah, or 20, or 45, it would be 5.2.2,
Is page 45, yes?
yeah.
Mobile home parks will not be permitted in
Yeah.
waterfront designation.
There are already several existing.
So that would be legal non-conforming.
Okay, so then if they sold it, then does it have to
Okay,
switch over? It's
nope.
not, it's fine.
Legal
It's
non-conforming runs with the property, not the owner,
Okay,
right? So if you have a property that's legal non-conforming and you sell it,
right,
that right continues in perpetuity with the property.
okay,
No,
what,
we don't have mobile home parks here.
You've got trailer parks,
trailer park?
like
We have camping.
campgrounds,
Okay,
yeah.
when I think of mobile.
Mobile home
I'm
park
thinking of
is-
big trailers.
Yeah, that's a permanent residential.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sorry, so I'm getting confused with the designation of those there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
I'm just trying to think. I was moving, I know there's a couple that have.
yeah, and then I didn't understand, lake trout, lakes of that art capacity. I understand that whole concept. I just didn't know, you know, who is it, the ministry that does the,
It's the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks.
when they say this is designated as a lake trout lake, then therefore the capacity is a little.
Yeah.
So there's lake trout lakes. There's lake trout lakes at near capacity, and then there's lake trout lakes at capacity. And it's all based on dissolved oxygen levels,
Oh, okay,
right? And what impacts dissolved oxygen is nitrates going into the water. Decrease dissolved oxygen, it takes it uses up nitrogen. Or oxygen, I mean. And so the more septic systems, the more runoff from agriculture, things of that nature, the more you have an impact on the lake. So you can see why you got a lake trout lake at capacity. It means the lake's got a native trout population. And it's got, so I think it's yeah, it can support the development. So that's why most lake trout lakes have a requirement for new lots and new development to be well back, like almost 300 meters.
so we, I don't know if you had the chance to read that, comment from Phil Morlock.
Yeah, I was fascinated.
Yeah, it was, regarding brook trout and,
Yeah.
and that he felt that our official plan needed to be somewhat changed.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any brook trout in here, though, is there?
Claims that they were existing at one point, but non,
200 years ago.
really.
Yeah, based on his work that he feels done, or has done on Haley.
what I would suggest to council is that that type of comment we take through the Ministry of the Environment and see what they say.
Okay.
Right, they're the subject matter experts on this, they're the ones that give direction to us. If they see merit in the comments, then we should act on it. I don't think that there's a difference in the policy between a lake trout lake or a brook trout lake. It's just a trout lake, right? And they're
As I
both,
look at
they're
you.
both, they're similar. The brook trout will have a shallower habitat than the lake trout.
Okay.
Brook trout are typically shoreline and rivers. Lake trouts are typically deeper waters. They can coexist as well.
Yeah, and I guess my thought when I was reading all that is that, I guess it just made me more aware that more things are in danger, I guess, of species, right? And that, if what he says is true, brook trout are the first to come to their demise in the lake versus lake trout, they're a little hardier, so. Anyways.
I'm very skeptical about that comment about Haley. I think there's ulterior motives, and I know I'm being recorded, but the history of M&R getting involved with brook trout lakes, in my opinion, is not very good. There's a lake that I used to fish a lot. It had splake in it. M&R discovered brook trout in it, closed the lake for 5 years. That was 35 years ago, still closed. So that brook trout can get established. So I'm very skeptical about anybody mentioning brook trout habitat.
And I would suggest to you that the vast majority of times, my experience has been that it's a lake trout discussion and not a brook trout discussion. I've always equated brook trout more with the rivers.
Right.
But that's not to say there isn't a population of lakes either, but yeah.
The next thing I had scribbled, I think I probably already had answered my question once I started reading. Just to clarify the hazards in areas, and that's section 6.
Yep.
Would be floods, contamination sites, mine hazards, that type of thing, right? And as I went through this, it was like, oh yeah, they're talking about things. So,
And one of the new ones that came in 2020, and I'm not sure it's in the proposed 2023 PPS or not, but wildfire hazards.
I saw
And I think that we all have maybe a heightened appreciation for that issue. And the interesting thing about the wildfire hazard, it doesn't say no to development. It just says how to properly design your property so that you can minimize the impact on it.
Right.
And it's more common in monoculture plantations than it is in a mixed forest.
So then the waste management, 8.3, there was a statement here that the Madawaska landfill site was 2020,
I saw that.
and that's not correct.
No, it's-
That's an old policy. And we can,
I did read it, didn't we?
that's great.
This is-
I'm impressed.
It's like, really?
For all the money we spent getting it ended. Oh, gee.
And then it
Well-
says the township shall divert all organic material and recyclables, but
Which-
that it was just a note for me because. we are-
And I think that should may attempt to divert as much organic material as possible. Again, now, I'm not sure council is fully aware of this issue, but I'm going to suggest to you that your largest carbon footprint is your landfill, is the methane coming from the landfill. And methane is caused by organics being buried, right? So the more organic you can move from your stream, the less you're gonna have that greenhouse gas. That's about.
Okay, my next comment was on transportation 9.1, and I'm just gonna throw it out there because it's really not a question. It says it's a good reason to contact MTO to decrease speed. And that was basically that walking is important mode of travel in the villages, et cetera, school kids crossing. And we still have 60 kilometer through both of our villages, so.
Right.
So private roads were another one, and that's 9.7. And it said the township has no responsibility for snow clearance or maintenance of private roads. And does that include the culverts? Is that of general?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah, that
no
would be
responsibility.
under- No ownership.
Whatsoever, no ownership, no liability.
And is there a standard for private roads? Like it's just thinking that if emergency services have to get in there and if they can't access, is that then?
As a general rule, we as a municipality will, if asked, will provide a width and height and kind of give them an idea of what it should have as it relates to allowing for emergency services to access. That said, most and a lot, won't say most, a lot of them were probably developed long before that, and probably are not at the standard. But certainly if any of them ask what it is, we certainly would give them the standards that we would utilize as a minimum road platform with a minimum clearance to allow for fire and ambulance to access the property. But then it would be on the private road owners to make the necessary upgrades
Changes.
to allow for that.
I know, Joan, for a fact, when Ian, as acting as fire chief, goes to the cottage association meetings, he always talks about cutting it back, making sure there is height for the fire trucks to be able to get in, and if possible, somewhere for them to turn round. So that goes for paramedics as well. And it's something that he is quite passionate about. But that is one of one of the reasons that they have the 4x4 smaller trucks so that they can get in, at least do something with a portable pump or what have you. But he does talk to the cottage owners associations about cutback and making them more accessible.
And then, thank you. The next question I had was on subdivisions, 11.3. Where more than 4 lots are proposed to be created at once from a single parcel of land. existing as of the date of adoption of this plan, the plan of subdivision or plan of condominium and an amendment to this plan shall be required. And then you have down in the creation of up to
Yep.
3 lots,
There's
so
something missing there. That would be the reference to the severances. It would be a creation of that. It would be just a cross reference back to the consent policies. But that's
something is.
something missing. Thank you. Again. Paying attention.
You know, not knowing what else to do with my life, I read this lovely document. I think I got back, so the next few pages I probably went, yeah, I've had enough.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, good on you, John.
Huh?
Good on you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joan. Does anybody else have anything specific that Joan didn't pick up on? Bill, I thought you said you had some there, councillor Rodney.
Well, Joan already picked up one of them, but the other I was wondering about is this residential conversions. Talks about an application process, which we don't have right now.
Can you?
Or is that?
What's
That's
that?
something-
Page 52, section 5.45.8.
I actually just had little notes there. Is there a bylaw for this? Because I didn't know. And how do we know if this is being done? Is my other little sub thing, so.
What page did you-
Said 50.
52.
Oh, we have different pages.
What section?
Section 5.45.
We've got it in there.
Or I guess it's 5.81.
As a condition of development and redevelopment.
Well, just residential conversions.
Applications for seasonal conversion. That is typically a building permit. It's a change of use building permit. I can clarify that, but that's what that's meant to be. So if someone's got a cottage
Mhm.
and they want to move there and make that their permanent residence. Typically, what happens is there's a change of use permit. So that MPAC can get notified that this is the new residence, and this is where they're living and this is what's going on. Rarely does it result in any need to change things. It's just so that it's an MPAC notification. And I'll just building permit.
Tracy, how often does that happen here? Like that, a lot of that has happened over the last 3
It's
4
happening,
years.
we don't see it, to be
Yeah.
honest.
And I don't think people apply to MPAC to have that changed. If all of a sudden they decide,
That's what the building permit goes to MPAC. That's why the building permit is the tool to recognize the conversion. It happens all the time without it. What gets them eventually is that they want a change in address. Right, that their mailing address is no longer 58 Dundas Street, right? It's, on one of the lakes. And so when they want to change that, they notify you, right? This is their permanent address. And some municipalities have it set up with their clerks that if they get those notices, that it triggers the change of use permit. It's usually just $50 or $100 minimum permit. That's what happens there. Yes.
because I mean, as a township, we don't charge any different property tax with residential versus full-time.
No, but I think that what,
Or we can get some impact though.
Yeah.
Because right now it says seasonal residential, and if they're, then it would just say.
year round. Yeah. The other thing is that certain zoning regulations require permanent residency versus seasonal residency. The short-term rental bylaw that's going to come up to you. The question is, do we want it to apply to seasonal residential or just permanent residential where someone's there with care and control of that unit? Or are we happy with it being rented and the person lives in Hamilton? I don't know. Those are questions you guys have to work through, but whether it's seasonal or permanent has a bearing, particularly when you get into private roads. That's it.
Mayor Lavalley, you another question?
Just a comment, I'm going back to 1.1.1. And you may have answered this and I may have forgotten, but under the acknowledgement of the territory, I'm wondering why we wouldn't have just put in our township acknowledgement. It would make more sense to me.
I have no issues with that. None whatsoever.
We'll see that you get a copy of it,
Okay.
and
I have a comment on that, though, is that if that acknowledgement changes, then would you have to go back and amend this?
No.
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 see that, Jim?
I don't.
This is it, the acknowledgement is aspirational wording,
Right.
right? It's not requirements and it's not locking you, and it's just, this is what we're aspiring to be.
When this original document was created, we didn't use the land acknowledgement yet. That's
Okay.
why it's not the same.
Okay, well, I just think we use it
I think so.
with other things, so it'd be nice in our document.
There's also another acknowledgement on 113.
Under social and demographic,
Yes, that first paragraph is recognizing the Anishinaabe.
I know I'm seeing, okay, sorry. Yeah, that's pretty much
Since I
our
started reading this.
acknowledgement too, with some, one addition, I don't know, I liked it at the front, where I think it should be like front and center,
Agreed.
so wherever you want to put it, and
In addition to what's there, because I think what's there actually describes what South Algonquin
yeah,
Township is all about. I don't think we should remove what you already have. I think this is an addition.
And some communities are going further with talking about the period of occupation by First Nations. One municipality, Tate Alley Township, actually in Lanark County, they just had First Nation acknowledgement and plaque ceremony. They've got 3 pages of the history of First Nation occupation of the land in their official plan under this sort of context of plan. The very first thing they talk about for 3 pages is how and when and where it changed, and Indian Wars and 1812 and all that kind of stuff comes into play in the discussion. You can go further, and I think that once you get land claims closer to the end, there may be some need to open up this document and have a different recognition of the relationship, right? Maybe as time goes on.
yeah, I don't really want to add in here too, because this document's going to come out for our open session, but that this township is, will be part of the largest land claim in the province of Ontario.
Understood.
You know, so I think there should be maybe some reference to that.
And that's certainly possible. If you want to have reference to ongoing efforts for the land claims and that, you guys give me the wording and I'll put it in here. Absolutely no problem.
I think probably it should wait until the land claim is settled, and then you have something definite to put in there. Right now, everybody's version is a little wee bit different, and you know, you probably get as much wrong as you get right if you guess now and put some. I think our acknowledgement that we use should be added. I agree with Councillor Collins, added, not replacing what's there. And I certainly agree that when the land claim is settled, the whole situation is going to change. So we're going to have to acknowledge that in the official plan. Because the official plan is gonna change.
Well, I'm just
Parts of it.
comfortable either way, Council Florida, I guess for people looking at this, they should know that there is land claim discussions, and they're looking to have a resolve within the next couple of years.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's all I'm
That,
saying.
that we're in discussion, and there may be. Maybe even proper to put in there, because that's part's not gonna change, that there's 17,000 acres. That in our township that's gonna be deemed native land. So it's certainly effects.
Well, I can work with staff and we can improve that wording, no problem. No problem.
I find this quite unusual. I've just come back from Greece. And if you looked at how the land has changed from usage from ancient times to Byzantine times, medieval times, this would be a rewrite every couple of 100 years. So at least we're only thinking about doing this once, with it from native to current. As I say, Greece's history is so vast compared to what we're dealing with here, and they don't acknowledge any of it. Unless you delve into the history and actually go looking for it, there is no acknowledgement of what went before. So I think we're doing the right thing by acknowledging at least this change once.
I think that now we have to acknowledge that change is in progress,
Yes.
and then when it's completed,
Yes, I agree
change
with
it
you.
and say that.
That's what I'm saying. Now, hopefully this is just the one change that we have to end up doing, yeah.
Who knows?
It makes me 25 before the finish. Let's see what he comes back.
Any other-
I'm comfortable, I just want to make sure that something else got in.
All right, well, I'll work with Tracy and Brian and we'll get some acknowledgement wording in there. Now, when we do that, the thing is that all I'm asking for at this point is council's endorsement of the document to go forward to public consultation and to send it to the ministry. You're gonna have all kinds of time and opportunity to wordsmith and clarify and fix last minute things that you're not happy with. Okay, so this, I'm not saying anything you're doing today is in stone, right? It's all very fluid and draft.
And the ministry may well throw some bits and pieces around anyway.
I have to tell you, I am absolutely fascinated about what the comments are going to be coming back from the province in light of the new PPS coming out and things of that nature. I'm quite curious about how that's going to come about. I have had a very, very cursory look at the PPS, and it looks a little bit thinner. And it's just, I'm not 100% sure how much rural related information has come out versus urban related. Hopefully I'll have something for you on that in the very near future.
Okay, thank you. Are we all in favor of going forward then for this to be submitted to the ministry? And then we take it to public forum? Or do we wait for the ministry to come back to us first?
Oh, God, no.
We're not coming back. to
It'll
next
be the
year.
next election.
Yeah, I think that we have to honor the Planning Act that says the minister gets the document for 60 days, right? And ask for their comments, but at the same time concurrently going forward and working with the public to do comments. Tracy and I had a very brief discussion before the meeting. We acknowledged that the last time we went around for public consultation at the beginning of the process, it was in August. And we sort of got our ears bent a little bit that it was high season and businesses couldn't participate and things of that nature. We're wondering if September would be a better month to have open houses and public meetings.
I think the cottage community by and large are still around for most of September. But once the schools go back, everyone's a little bit less busy.
What I would suggest is that we do 2 open houses and 1 public meeting. We would do like we did the last time, an open house in each village. One would be virtual and public, and the other one would be just public. We
Yeah,
could s-
open, I think what we did the last time was, the one that we had here, we had it at the public meeting.
Yeah.
And then the one in Madawaska was like the open house, but people could still request to, come in on Zoom, they could come in here as well. So I think that worked well because we covered the open meeting or the public meeting.
Yeah.
For legislation, then we had the open house in Madawaska as the additional, and it was well attended.
Very well attended.
Yeah, I was delighted to see.
And I
The
think we would,
attendance.
I'd like to see something very similar to that. And we would get the notice out, it gives us lots of time, the cottage associations gets a chance to look at it. It goes on the website, it's there for everybody to look at. We get the word out, and then we see what comments come back. I think that there's gonna be enough meat and change in here for the community to sort of grab a hold of and think about and provide you comments on.
Okay,
So with that, we'll do a resolution on July 5th.
Provide direction to
Yeah.
proceed with the open house. What I can do,
And to send it to them, or.
yeah, what I can do, I don't know if there's any changes I need. There's some clarifications. What I'll do is I'll get this document back to you with some changes and the revised land acknowledgement.
Okay.
Okay?
And that's the one. that really-
And then that's the one we'll go forward. And if we didn't capture all of your direction, there's time to do that. Okay.
Sounds good.
Is everybody comfortable with that idea?
I think that sounds perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on with the rest of our agenda then. Bear with me just a moment. Okay, so the next thing is back over to you again, is our short-term rental policy report and the draft zoning bylaw amendment for that short-term rental. What do you have for us there, please?
Well, I'd like a copy of my report. I could stand up here and read it, actually.
I just need it back.
Thanks. Thanks. So this is arguably a relatively quick little report that I pulled together. Brian said that the issue was coming up. You guys have been talking about it. There's 2 steps I think that you need to have in your mind as you go forward with short-term rental. And the first step is recognizing them in the zoning bylaw and putting a proper definition in. You can do a general provision, just like you have for bed and breakfast, right? You've got general provisions that say, if you want a bed and breakfast, here are the things you have to do. You would be doing the same thing with short-term rentals. If you want a short-term rental, here are the things you need to do. One of the trends is to go towards a licensing regime, where they're licensed on an annual basis. This report is anticipating that that's the direction you would want to go in. So you would establish your general provisions, you establish your definition. Then the question is, what properties are you going to permit these on?
Well, just a clarification item. Currently, under our current zoning bylaw, short-term rentals are not a permitted use. So any that are operating currently are operating in contravention of our zoning bylaw. So the primary issue is we need to figure out how we're gonna incorporate those to permit them in our zoning. And then the second question becomes, do we want to regulate that? But we certainly need to incorporate that activity into our zoning bylaw to make it compliant.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, some municipalities have referred to them as tourist cabins. And if they're existing and they didn't go through the zoning amendment for a tourist cabin, they're saying they're illegal, non-conforming, so they don't have rights. Depends on how you want to proceed with the historic ones. There's different ways to deal with that. So recognizing the zones that they would go into. The short-term rentals, I guess it's a question of how much of this you want, how permissive you want this to be, whether you want to have control of this or whether you're quite prepared to let them happen organically within your community. I would suggest that you want to think about the road standard that you're encouraging commercial development, because this is commercial accommodation. I would suggest it would be completely legitimate not to permit them on private roads. I would also think that you want to consider the tenancy of the owner of the property. Is this their cottage that they're renting out, like they always have for 1 week in August to pay for the taxes? Or is this a commercial enterprise that bought this property for the sole purpose of short-term rentals? And it's not a place of residence, it's a commercial asset. So the idea about the unit being owner occupied, I think is something that you wanted to fall on one side or the other, whether you want that to go.
So for the unit to be owner occupied, they'd have to vacate it to rent it out to.
Not necessarily. You can rent out rooms, you can rent out
Well, then
the back
they're
half.
under more of the B&B.
Well, there is a difference between the B&Bs in terms of the amenities that are provided, right? The second B is there's
Right.
eating, right? They do become very close to B&Bs when they're owner occupied. But there are some subtle differences, I think.
Hard time saying.
I have heard that certain townships, if it's not a permanent dwelling, it's not anybody's permanent, so i.e. it is a second home, for any reason, is charged at double the property tax rate. Or 3 times, in fact, one of them, one area I know.
You have to be careful with property taxes, but licensing fees and things like that can certainly be more, but I think you have to be careful with the taxes.
Well, that will also relate to even if it becomes a long-term rental, then it still would be a commercial rental.
And it is. Someone's earning money from it.
Not long term.
Well-
Long term is.
It's just a dwelling that's being rented.
If our current rules and zoning bylaws say they're not allowed, a way of allowing them is for them to change the zoning. Not to have a variance or an exception, but to change it completely to commercial.
Yeah.
So at least the township is collecting taxes at a commercial rate instead of a residential rate.
And that is an approach that I think is quite simple and elegant and works. You end up spending a lot of time chasing people to say you're non-complying, in order to comply, and then taking them through a zoning amendment, and then the neighborhood gets involved, right? And then the neighborhood will basically have a referendum on whether this is a good idea or not, and we'll let you as council know. And that you just call a short-term rental a tourist cabin. That's the end of the day. That's it. You may want to go further than that. I think that works. I don't have a problem with that approach.
There is one problem, and that's where there's 2 residences on one property, and one of them is being used as a residential property, and the other one is rented out short term.
And that's where I think, again, the performance standards that you put in your zoning bylaw could say a short-term rental cannot be in an accessory structure. Right? It has to be within the principal dwelling. Right? A lot of recreation-based economies, communities allow bunkies, right? And seeing bunkies converted into an Airbnb is something that's real. And you got to think about that. And that's why a lot of jurisdictions have said not in an accessory structure, right?
But I'm speaking for you on this. Sometimes the accessory structure was used as a granny flat.
Yeah.
Granny's passed away.
Yeah,
You got this structure on your property.
yeah.
Why not rent it out short term?
Well, and that becomes the issue with additional residential units, right? And promoting additional residential units in the house, in an accessory structure, right? And then someone saying, well, you know, I'm gonna rent it out to the snowmobilers on the weekends this winter. I'm not gonna try to find somebody to live in this winter. Those are things that happen, and that short-term rentals are eating the lunch of the affordable housing initiatives with the ARUs, right? Every time there's a new ARU out there that addresses affordable rental housing, there's an equal likelihood that it gets converted into a short-term rental. And I don't know how you get around that, other than eventually maybe having a moratorium on short-term rentals, because you have enough evidence before you that suggests it's not good for the affordable housing in the community, right? But I don't think you can stop.
How do you tell a property owner that rather than making $2,000 a month on a long-term rental, that they can make $2,000 a week?
Well, and I know
That's a hard.
it's a hard issue. I don't think many jurisdictions have got to that point where they're saying enough is enough with the short-term rentals. It's possible that you could get to that point, but at this time, I think that it's more how to manage the use, how to regulate the use, and that the impact on affordable housing is not something that many jurisdictions are taking a run at this time, and just leave that. And you regulate the short-term use, you permit the ARUs, and you hope there's a nice mix of both.
Well, that's what you kind of hope for in a community like this, because we thrive off of tourism.
You have to have them. You can't say no to them.
But we've also got a Gotham Park there where people to have a place to stay. There's none. So that's a double-edged sword, right?
It is. And I think going forward as council, recognizing both uses and the pros and cons of both uses is the best we can hope for at this time. Right? We recognize them, we regulate them, we permit them. And if it becomes a problem down the road, then we look at the problem and see if we can fix it. But I think right now you've got both options.
Are you suggesting one of the better ways to go ahead is to license them? So we are allowing them, but with official checklist, you will have a fire extinguisher, you will have smoke alarms, you will, etc., and we license it, and you get your license if you've adhered to all of the things that we have in place.
I like the license from the standpoint that it's an annual exercise. It's an exercise that makes you demonstrate you're doing things properly. I also appreciate that that's a huge demand on staff as a licensing regime as well. I have heard it argued by friends and colleagues that if you don't have a license system, your staff's going to be running off their feet with an enforcement issue and complaints regardless. So that if you at least have a licensing system, you've got a little bit of control over it. But it is a demand on staff, but I think that it's very effective in terms of performance and making sure that on an annual basis, people are following the rule. The one thing about the licensing is that if you get a problem property, right? Then next year, when they come to renew the license, we'll have a conversation about how the following year is going to come. Or maybe there's new unique terms and conditions to the license, different things of that nature. So it gives you the ability to manage and influence as opposed to react.
So this is saying basically, yes, you can have a second home. Yes, you can own a second home. And if it is purely for you, personal use, you don't have to have a license. But if you've got anyone other than yourselves or your family being in there, i.e. you are getting an income from that, then it should be licensed. And I believe that I think it was Montreal, where there was a severe fire. And I think I may have got this a little wrong, but Airbnb turned around and said, we will not list the properties unless we are seeing a license. So I think the Airbnb platform is looking to licensing, if I've understood that correctly.
I believe that in some of the cities, they're completely gone that way. But I think as you get more rural and more remote, some of the Airbnbs are still being listed and registered. I mean, certainly if there's a regulation in the community, there's an expectation that from Airbnb that you will meet the requirements of the license. And if you're not licensed in a community that has licensing, they will not list you.
Right.
But if you're in a community that does not have licensing, they'll list you because that's what's available. So
Are we talking about a licensing system as well as changing the zoning to commercial?
I think I'm cautious in the zoning because a lot of these properties are quite often Brian's renting a room in his house. And that room is an Airbnb. And I rent it out on the weekends because my kids left home and I've got a spare room and I'm, so that house doesn't become commercial. If we're going to allow secondary units, that unit may become commercial if that's where council wanted to go. But I think licensing in general allows us just to manage the care and control. It ensures that the fire department knows they've got proper smoke detectors. The fire department knows they've got CO detectors like they're required to have. We know that the road, it's on a road that our fire truck's getting to, that an ambulance will get to. We know that the proper cares and controls have been put into place to help mitigate what happened in Montreal. And that's all we're doing is we're just managing it to make sure, and you're still gonna have people who are quote bad Airbnb owners. But because we're recommending that they only be done in primary residences, you don't have the same issue when somebody's living in the home as when somebody's not living in the home. But if you want to allow accessory units, we've got to be cautious as well that the accessory units meet certain codes, because we also know that we've got trailers that aren't hooked up to septics or are being added into a septic system that wasn't designed for them, and people are renting them as Airbnbs. So we're going to have to, we have to draw a line somewhere in the sand if we're going to go this way. But certainly zoning is plan A, and then how and what do we do to regulate them?
I seen a place last weekend where formerly it was an elderly couple. So they would have produced minimal amount of garbage. This past weekend, there was 4 vehicles and a trailer. And it's rented out most weekends, a lot of the times through the week. They're creating a lot more cost to the township. I think if you're going to go strictly with a licensing and not tax them at a higher rate, I think the licensing fee has to be way up there.
Substantial, yeah.
We certainly can manage the licensing fee. We've made some recommendations. Those can be amended to however council sees fit. There's also penalties that we've established within the bylaw. It's quite a lengthy bylaw. It actually, we're not the only one. The format of this one has been amended. We've taken pieces out of a couple of them, but the principle of this one came from a township called Tiny. Tiny's been to the Ontario Municipal Board with it already. So a lot of the language has already been tested, yeah, at the tribunal. I guess it's the OLT now, not the OMB. So it gives us a basis of a sound basis for licensing. And I do know I've been in contact with a number of my colleagues. And this is actually one that a large number of them are using as their example moving forward. Now, everybody's adopting their own fees and their own requirements, but there's a lot of the main part of this bylaw really comes out of one that Tiny and the Ontario Land Tribunal agreed to. So how you'd like to amend that, we're more than happy to make any changes you'd like to see to it. But I think that it is really in the township's best interest long-term. It'll help us manage some of our long-term housing shortage that we have here right now. Because if it's got to be a principal dwelling and not, you know, you're buying a cottage under 123 Ontario and you're now renting that out on Airbnb every weekend. It also gives your neighbors who want to have their own quality of life and piece of their ownership of their land a little bit of peace of mind knowing that the guy next door hasn't got a different person in there every weekend having a grand time, because when you rent the cottage for the weekend, you're on the lake, you're drinking, your fires in the evening, you've got music going, you're having a great time, but the neighbor on the other side's got to go to work in the morning. And, you know, we need to figure out how we're going to manage this. So this was our initial kick at the can for council to consider and to modify as you feel fit.
Mela Valley, you have some.
Thank you. I just want to add to what everyone is saying here. When I was out at the Hay Lake Property Association meeting, that was one of the questions they had, like, what does the short-term rental mean? Because I rent my cottage out to somebody for 1 week of the year. So am I going to be regulated now and have to get licenses, etc.? I don't believe that that is and should be our intent. I think what is happening, and it has happened in this township, is you have someone from Toronto or Ottawa, whatever, buy a place here and you never see them. They never set foot here. And you see different people coming all the time to rent this place. And they're making a profit and they're not paying substantial taxes. That's to me is the crutch of this issue for me. I don't want to go after the person that rents out for a week or 2 weeks and across Hay Lake, Dickens or whatever lake. I'd like to see us concentrate on the type of accommodation, or I don't even know what you call the Airbnbs, but the fact that someone's, you know, nobody can rent that place. So we have a shortage of housing. No one can rent this place because it's rented out for the year, making a profit. That's where I'm coming from on this issue.
And I think that was addressed, and actually you can see it on the report there. I think it's 28 to 30 days or something that we would be allowed to.
But we know that that's not we know it's happening much more than that.
But I'm saying for the weeks,
Yeah,
somebody rents their cottage for a week to a family member, but
yeah.
I recently seen an advertisement for a place in Madawaska. It's 5-bedroom and they're offering to rent it out as a B&B to 5 different customers at the same time with a shared kitchen. Can you imagine the money that they're bringing in on that deal?
And the parking requirements you need.
Well,
You got five bedrooms, 5 different couples.
This is like it's in a 100-acre property. They got lots of room to.
Yeah,
park.
but you can see where if they did that in a more cottagey area, it could be
Yeah.
a challenge.
Yeah, they'd be parking on the road.
Yeah.
I think our problem will be, and I hear what you're saying there, Valley. How do we differentiate between the person who, oh, I haven't got time to be at the cottage this summer, I'm going to rent it out. Oh, but next summer I plan on being there more and I won't rent it out so much. I think we have to draw a line if you are not living there permanently, it is a second home, and you plan to rent it out at any time, there should be a license in place.
I'm gonna throw in a couple of cents here as well too with my management company. The reason why my business started this way was because I was managing cottages, okay, for people that they didn't have the time to spend there. And what they want to do is they want to raise enough money for taxes and for upgrades. So myself as a management company, I am on hands. So there's, even though the people that own that cottage are in Toronto or Ottawa or what have you, I am there in case, or my company is there in case there are any problems. Whether it be parties, whether it be complaints from neighbors next door. And that has happened in the past, but that's the reason why my business is there, is for the peace of mind of people that own it. So now there's getting back to the double-edged sword, that's a fine line. So now, but there are people here in town, for instance, that have bought property for profit.
Right.
Right, and they're non-existent, and that is the issue.
That is the issue for me.
So when this comes up to discussion with council, we're gonna have to make sure that we've got all our T's crossed and our I's dotted for, you know, what we're about to step into.
I would suggest that there's a lot more cottages out there being rented on a weekly basis than we're aware of.
Oh, absolutely,
For sure.
absolutely. All you have to do is get on Kijiji and you'll find out.
And I think one of the reasons that when we put this together the way we did, we recommended that council take this forward to public meetings is so that we can get some input from those people directly going to be affected by it, and we can try and figure out how to best manage the bylaw for the people that are going to be affected by it, because there's a lot of people going to be affected by this. And make sure that we meet our needs as a municipality, but at the same time, understand that we have to recognize some of those concerns. There may be some valid concerns that can be brought forward that maybe there's some changes in language that would be beneficial. But that's why when we brought this forward for consideration, not only for council to think about how do we manage this, but also we should take this to the public and see what the public's thoughts are. Maybe you'll find that you've got 1,100 people in the community that say, don't bother with it, throw it out.
Maybe we'll find out, because we are opening up a Pandora's box, I think.
Absolutely, but these are the types of things I think that open and transparent government was made for.
Absolutely.
And taking this out to the community and having it published in the community and having the community, send in their comments to the municipality on it before you make decisions. I wouldn't suggest that this is even going to get back to the table, to this table of council until sometime in the fall. We generally break at the start of July, and we don't resume sitting until September. So we've got a whole summer for people to give us some input. We can go out if we want to have a public meeting in the summer or in the fall, whenever council want to do it. And we can take that information and compile that into a report and bring that back as well as any changes council feels should be made to the draft that's been put together.
I hear all that you're saying, Mr. Martin there, but what I think we have failed to address here was exactly what Councillor Florent was saying. People Airbnb are utilising the facilities that we have here in our township more than if it was a permanent or long-term rental. And I think that is the main issue that we all need to be aware of. The private road situation, the dump and the landfill for one. Also, I'm sure there's more that they are using more than if this was a long-term rental. They are not bringing an awful lot to our community. From my experience with the cottage resort, most bring all of their booze, all of their food, and everything that they're going to do, they bring with them from Costco or their preferred supermarket where they live. So they're not actually adding an awful lot to us. And people saying, oh, well, yes, but they're coming. We should encourage them coming. I agree if they're using hotel, motel, and the restaurants, but a lot of the Airbnb populace or people that rent a whole cottage, they're bringing most of their stuff with them. They don't want to be down in the grocery stores and in the supermarkets and restaurants. They want to be at the cottage, and they bring all their meats, they bring all their groceries and everything. Yes, we're giving a little bit of work to someone, turning around, cleaning, etc., to someone within our community. So there is some benefit, but less than people think. That's my 2 pence for what it's worth. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add here? Do you think we should have one? Do we believe as a council that we should be going forward with a policy, possible licensing? And obviously we've got to do something with the zoning, because at the moment we could prosecute them all because it's all illegal. And we could go down that route and prosecute everybody that's renting. I mean, we only need to look on Airbnb and count them all up and prosecute everybody on that list if we wanted to go that route, because it is illegal to have a short-term rental.
Better get ready to hire a lot more staff.
Yes, I agree.
We also got to be careful too. I've seen, as a matter of fact, I was doing a little research dating up a few here. There are people in our municipality that have legitimate businesses such as cottage rentals and that are advertising on Airbnb in
Yes.
addition to others.
Yes, of course
So-
there are. And there are people doing it correctly, sure. What do we as a council want to do with this?
I think we have to proceed with a policy. And in the policy, it would decide what route we're going to do to enforce the policy, such as licensing or zoning changes or whatever.
Okay,
And definitely public input as well, too.
Oh, yeah, well, with any huge change, you always have public input.
Before, if I can step in, with that being said, the first step would be to do the zoning bylaw anyway, amendment. Before this would even come into play. Correct?
Yeah,
Recognize them in there, and then that would give council time as well to get this modified, or we would go to public with.
you could certainly do that. You could separate the licensing and the zoning bylaw initiatives. My gut's telling me that you go to a public meeting with both and you tell them the whole story about how we're going to deal with this and manage this use. And that you not necessarily have a public meeting under the Planning Act to introduce the subject to the community, that you have a general discussion meeting. This is one option we're considering. What do you guys think? And it would be the zoning piece and the license piece, and everybody would see how it would work and evolve.
And then go to the zoning bylaw amendment, public meeting after.
After that, you would do the formal planning acts process once you're going, yeah, I think this is the zoning amendment approach we want to take. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I would agree, Forbes, that we would take this just to a general public meeting. Have discussion about the two components and the need for part A and part B and why we're doing it the way we're doing it.
Yeah.
Once council's then comfortable with plan A and plan B or whatever plan they're gonna do,
Plan C.
we would then give notice under the Planning Act for a zoning amendment.
Yeah.
And once that zoning amendment was passed and through its appeal, then we could bring forward the bylaw, because of course, the bylaw can't come into full force and effect until after the zoning bylaw amendment has met its appeals deadline.
And the zoning bylaw amendment would have an appeal that the public could challenge it,
Yes.
where a licensing bylaw under the municipal act would have no appeal, right? So you would want to have that appeal period resolved before you had confidence to do the licensing. But it doesn't mean that you wouldn't have one already in the can that you're working on, that this is the direction we're going. It's just the action to put it in place would be.
I think by and large, our township population are very law abiding, and they possibly don't even know, because they haven't bothered to look, that they're contravening regulation by having a short-term rental. I would think a lot of them will be quite horrified when they hear that in fact they could be prosecuted for having short-term rental if we wanted to go that way.
And I think they're necessary. Our community needs them. I think every community has
Yes,
a
we
need
do.
for these. We've got a great need for them specifically because we have such a transient tourist population here. They're vital to our community,
Yes,
but we need to make sure that they're managed in a fair and appropriate manner, that they're gonna be safe when people are staying there. We're not gonna have to deal with, as you said, the Montreal factor that came into play.
So criteria, I think criteria is gonna be.
it would be nice to know if you're renting that it does have smoke alarms, it does have this, it does have that. You shouldn't be having to pack your own smoke alarm if you're renting on Airbnb or VRBO or any of the other platforms that people rent from. You should have confidence that they are to a certain standard. And unfortunately, landlords as they are, they're down in Toronto, they're down in Ottawa, they're more than an hour away. I mean, even at a cottage resort, we used to have people remove the batteries from the smoke alarms. They'd use them in their GPS or they'd put them in their handheld radios or what have you. So I know that happens even within a resort, and I'm sure this is happening in the short-term rental market.
It happens in long-term rentals.
Yeah, I'm sure it does, but yeah,
And I think that there's a clear distinction between residential properties that are undertaking to have Airbnbs and a commercial property that is that's doing Airbnb. You know, some of the tourist cabins, so we've got one here, Bungle Picks, is a tourist commercial property. And they utilize Airbnb as a tool.
absolutely, and it's a very good forum.
And I think even the campgrounds, some of them may be using Airbnb as a tool to commercially get people into their facility. So I don't think that those properties are, you know, managed under tourist commercial designations versus the residential property where we that's the area where we're focusing, is those residential properties that have become more of a commercial property than they really are a residential property.
I know for a point, having back again, when I had the tourists for the resort, our insurance policy was very, very laid out about what we should be having in the cottages with regards to fire blankets, fire extinguishers. And if our insurance agent had walked in at any time, they could do a spot inspection to make sure we were adhering to everything laid out in our insurance. But I'm sure there are some good people out there, but a lot of people have not even upped their insurance for short-term rental because it is different than long-term.
So there's gonna be, I think part of it's gonna be a criteria has to be met
Yes,
when we go to. do
which is what
license.
Paul was saying with regards to licensing versus zoning. So does anyone else have anything more? Can we direct staff to go ahead then with putting together some sort of open house sooner rather than later?
What would we want to do that this summer? Public open house? I mean, obviously, we're not having after the July meeting, we're not scheduled to have another council meeting till into September. Do we want something do we want to do something in the fall? Do we want to do it over the summer? When is more appropriate a timing? Obviously, we want to give the non-resident owners an opportunity to be aware that it's happening, so because they may want to make themselves available to be here for it.
I would like to be able to attend more cottage association meetings to make people aware of what's coming down the pipe.
I certainly would send out an email to the presidents of the lake associations to make sure that they got it out to their membership, because I think most of them have an email flash that they can
Yes.
send out to everybody quickly, and that's probably the quickest and simplest way to get all of our lake associations, so that they can get those non-residents. I mean, some of them are in the States, some of them are overseas. We've got people all over the world, right? But an email gets to them fairly quickly.
I think too that I don't know if everybody's had a chance, I know you have heavy packages coming up. Any more comments to come in with this? A timeline maybe to have everybody review it and then get comments back so it can be included in this. And then get this document to where we think we like it, and then get that document out. So I think maybe giving a few weeks for council to review it, and then once we have this in place, then go to the public.
Unfortunately, the minute we put a draft policy out, people think that's gospel. Look what happened with the with regards to the yards situation. So I think we need to be very careful and word it. This is a draft. We are opening it up. We do want input. And I think the fallout that we had from the yards situation, the bylaw, was ridiculous because it clearly was a draft. It clearly said, this is not the final product. This is just some way that we are going.
We have to start somewhere.
Yes.
And maybe clarify when we put it out that this is for public input and public consultation
Yes.
purposes.
It's
Yes.
not endorsed by council in any way, shape or form. It's one option being considered by council, what
Yes.
they use.
Yeah, I mean, some people printed off the draft off of the website and they were banding it around and I know people got emails regarding it, you know, I mean, it was blown out of the water long before we'd had a decent look at it.
From a planner's standpoint, that's not always bad.
Oh, okay.
Right. You know, getting people's attention, whether it's misguided understanding or appreciation of what you're trying to do or not, elevates the level of public discourse, gives you a chance to have this talk, right? And adjust and respond accordingly. But getting a community all riled up.
Well, I think
It's
all
not-
of us councillors were the bogeymen out there, you know, we
Well-
want to go round measuring grass.
So what you can do is make your planner the boogeyman then and blame him, and then you guys won't have to deal with it. But I think this is a significant issue, and there's a lot of what ifs about this. And whenever you make new public policy, you have to be really sensitive to addressing the problem and not having the policy create all kinds of collateral damage. The other thing that I would suggest that council consider, that if you do come up with a position and you do make your changes to zoning and licensing, that you put in that approval process an automatic review of the policy within 1 year. Right? So that, did we get it right? Did we nail everything? Right? Do we need to tweak this? Was it just a really bad idea? Right? So that you say, we're gonna try this, we're gonna try to get it right the first time, but we realize that we may have to tweak this and we'll look at it in a year. Right? And so that sometimes when you take that approach, it gives people a little bit more comfort in making the decision.
And I think if we do put something in place, we need to have the backup prepared to actually enforce it too.
There's
Because otherwise we're wasting everybody's time.
100%.
Okay, thank you. Are we happy to move on? We've given staff direction to
I just
look at the draft, yeah, that you've got already, waiting for
Look at the
input.
draft again. and
Okay.
try to Make sure that it's what everybody wants, and then we will plan a public meeting, I don't know, August, but September. September's gonna be happy, we're doing the public meeting for the official plan, so
Let's see if,
for me.
well, I guess the official plan will contain stuff about short-term rentals, so
Very aspirational though, like very.
Very
limited,
minimal,
just a
very generic.
paragraph, and all it does is set the stage for the zoning and the licensing.
okay,
Yeah, and I think that we don't want to muddy the waters with the official plan. We
No.
want to do those concurrently. I think, if we're gonna go out, let's set a time and that's gonna work. Whether that's in August or September or October, there's no urgency to getting this done. It kind of initially was being held back until the OP and the zoning were done. But after having some discussions, it's just as easy to move it ahead because the zoning we've already got the tools in the official plan to allow it. So we don't have to be concerned with that.
One thing about waiting until the fall is it gives another year of experience for the property owners. We'll know come September if there are problem sites within the community. Right? Or if everything's running tickety-boo and everybody's happy with them, right? Could be.
Cottages typically are only rented out in the summer, but a lot of the former full-time residences that are now short-term rentals are rented out year-round because they're generally more accessible. And we are kind of a four-season playground now.
Absolutely, 100%.
So a certain element, like the cottagers, may not be around in October to come to a meeting, but I don't think we're that concerned with those ones anyway. I think we're concerned with the ones that are former residents.
Yeah.
You know, and those people are rent year round, so they should be able, if they want their opinion, or their neighbors want to give their opinion, it shouldn't really matter what time of year we do it.
Somebody can provide comments through writing too, like if they can't attend, they can always put it in writing and send it to us too, so, or come in by Zoom.
So let's look provisionally then to get this August or October. What people's views?
I'd say October.
October after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Not during Lucy's.
See, then we've got
Then we're.
I didn't see
hunting. Yeah, we run into hunting. That was my thoughts on possibly August, but
I've got AMO in August too, and no, I have to council,
that's in the middle pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah.
but
The week after Thanksgiving is generally open. It's just before.
Just before the hunt season opens.
The week before Thanksgiving, the first weekend in September is very successful as well.
October, you mean.
Yes, I apologize, October.
Yeah, that would be all right.
Okay,
We have a council meeting.
let's consider moving forward with it for the first week in October then. Yeah, so please, once you've read it, get your comments to Tracy so that we can actually put some sort of draft together.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll take and summarize comments from council. And see if there's some consistency amongst the council comments, and if there is, we'll just go ahead and make those amendments to a red line version of the document. But if there's some that are kind of off on their own, we'll bring them in as red lines, and then we can bring that back. We can even bring that back in September to council, so there's one more look at it before it goes to the public.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of dealing with it.
I think that week before Thanksgiving, I'm scheduled for surgery too soon. It's only day surgery. And make me able to see again.
Well,
Cover
okay.
Well, we can look at the dates. We'll draw a few dates. in
We'll
there.
throw a few dates and see if we can avoid that.
I think the first thing, let's get focused on the draft. I think that.
it.
Okay, thank you for that. Obviously, on to our agenda, or back to our agenda. Number 6 is unfinished business. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Ross,
very
for
much.
attending.
It's always,
take care, eh?
I'm just down the room, we've got an appointment, I think, we've got
Yeah,
a summit
1:30.
coming in at 1:30.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your wisdom, sir.
We'll have a doctor behind.
Okay, number 6 is unfinished business, and we have listed here an open discussion here with regards to the draft of the yards standard bylaw. And I know a lot of people, because of how we deliver this and how people perceive this, we're getting very, very upset about it. From my perspective, a number of people have said to me, thank goodness you are bringing something in. That has been the overriding reports to me There's parts of this township that looks awful, and I would drive through it and wouldn't even think about stopping. With regards or thinking about purchasing a home or what have you. So thank goodness that this is being addressed, is my overarching statement there. What do other people, or what have other people had input? Anybody else?
I've got comments from both sides.
Yes.
Probably a lot, most of the comments are regarding grasslands and shrubs and even rotting trees that should be left for habitat. Like, I don't know how that ever got into a yard standard bylaw. It's certainly not a yard standard bylaw that I'm interested in. I'm interested in making people clean up their front yard that has 5 or 6 derelict vehicles laying on the lawn. You know, that's the stuff I want to clean up. I don't really care whether they cut the grass or not.
I don't either.
No, I think a lot of this was taken out of perspective there, and derelict boats, bits of trailers, bits of concrete, bits of construction wood that's just left lying around. I think that's where my thoughts lie with this. Vehicles that are obviously never going to move again. A boat that's been there for 10 years is never going to float again. The engine obviously is seized. And I think those are more the things that we were talking about and thinking about when we thought about a draft standards bylaw.
I have to, just, yes, both sides, like everybody's saying, I've heard from both sides. Most of them are just going, why the length of the grass, why, you know, that vegetation type of thing. There's a lot of people that, you know, do allow their grass to grow. And I don't have a problem with that. Some of the vehicles, my concern would be from a safety fire perspective. If they're old and left, you know, are there batteries still in it? How about gas, the oil? I mean, that's just a sitting hazard. Having said that, I've had somebody say, well, you know, I'm way out in the middle of nowhere. I have several vehicles and I use them for storage. Okay, that wouldn't have been my ideal thing to use for storage, but I could understand why, you know. And then the others were, again, just getting back to the things left outside. You know, are there people that can't manage, and how are we going to help that? And then, you know, just thinking outside the box, if we're asking somebody to, you know, do all these things, then we as a township are also going to have to make sure that we comply by what we said. So if we're saying, you know, no dead trees, well, then I think along our own township property, we'd have to make sure that the guys are looking after the own dead trees. And yeah, I mean, I could go on probably, and I had to be quiet for so long now, I'm just in this view. Anyways, the other was, you know, fine, if we enforce something, then are we as a township going to be able to pay for that, or work our works department around things, or our bylaw officer? What's that going to cost to us? But then the second thing is that other townships or other cities will have, you know, free day, so that old mattress that's sitting at the, you know, corner of the house or stuffed in somewhere could be picked up free of charge, and that it would be done by the township versus them having to take it. And I know Pembroke does that, I think, or Laurentian Valley where Andrew lives, they do it twice a year. So all this stuff then is taken to the curb, they come around, they pick it up free of charge. And they dispose of it, instead of having it just filled up or thrown in the bush because they're not paying $5 for that mattress, right? So, I mean, we have to think of those things too.
Thank you. Anybody else add to that?
I think I think what we're trying to accomplish here is we're trying to clean up the more populated areas. In South Algonquin, the ones that are more visible, right?
Yes,
As for somebody that's got a large property that may have an old camper trailer that they're storing whatever in, right? But if it's out of sight, it's out of mind, right? But if that is happening right here in town,
Different story.
it's a different story.
it is, but it's very different. It's very, very difficult to differentiate. I mean, MPAC do look when they value your property, the distance you are away from the main downtown stretch. And your property is valued a little less anyway. Or a little more in other aspects. But I think it's a very difficult one for us to say, well, you can leave 3 or 4 vehicles in your front yard that are obviously rusting away to nothing, but you can't. How do we do that?
That I don't have the answer for that. I think possibly, okay. Is maybe that is gonna be up to the judgment of the bylaw officer.
And I think the bylaw in the context that was written, because this is actually from one that I had written probably about 10 years ago now, and that's where I formulated a lot of this from. The context is within the village, as we know, the lots are small. A lot of the lots are an acre or less. You're built on top of each other. So the context was, I keep my lawn and my yard very nice. And I don't want the neighbor's yard not kept up. You know, I don't want them to have junk in their yard. I don't want to have, I cut my lawn, but you can't even see the rats running through theirs. It's also a bit of a fire hazard in the dry season when the grass gets too long, which can cause issues. But you're in the urban center, in the rural areas, most lots are much, much larger. And stuff isn't right out as a rule at the street. A lot of times it's in a backyard. Here, you can put a fence up and it'll hide it and nobody will care. But in a small community, when you're walking down the street, you see everybody's yard. When you drive down the street, you see everybody's yard. When you go to the visitors go through to the park, they see the people's yards on the main street as they go through town. So the idea was the urban centers were the areas where we were most concerned in the context of developing the bylaw and the standard, because everybody lives on top of each other. Where in the rural areas where you've got 100 acres and you've got 12 cars at the back there, do we really care?
I think the differentiation has to happen. I remember when we discussed this, Councillor Florence saying the value of somebody's property was probably diminished because of, or would have been diminished because of neighbours and neighbours next door. So I think we need to look after our township residents, and if people want to get a valuation of their property, it shouldn't be that it's depleted because next door it looks like a junk heap. And I think that's really quite important as well, to address it from that aspect as opposed to anything else. Mel Valley, you had some input here.
Well, I guess I'm the elephant in the room here, am I not?
No, you're not, you're very tiny. Yeah, very tiny.
Yeah. This is a serious issue, and I know that it caused some flux in the community. I've heard it. I just want to reiterate my concern with this bylaw. I think we could have dealt with the issue that came forward. It was a letter because someone didn't like what they seen as they went through the highway 60, understandably. I think it got addressed very quickly with a bylaw. I really feel very strongly if we're going to the public with a bylaw on short-term rentals, that we should be going to the public on this bylaw. I feel very strongly about this, and I know that, and I'm sorry that some members of council feel somewhat different towards me because of my concern with this. I have watched since this came out, the people that were kind of in question about this have cleaned up that area in 2 places in town. I understand through Council Florence concern about the sea cans that they're gone. I think this proposed bylaw, and I'm hoping it's proposed. I don't know that it addresses the concern that we're talking about. And, you know, Council Pigeon says, well, you know, we're trying to clean up the populated areas in this township. I think the way to clean up the populated areas is in this township is to not by putting a bylaw that everybody has to be responsible for to help clean up this township. I still believe that we should have discussions with the people that we feel may be not making our township look the way it should. And I think we'd see results. I, like Councilor Quia, have had some people come to me with different views. I've some people come to me and say the grass is the #1 issue. That it's a cultural thing for people to want to leave the grass the way they are. I've had people come to me and say, who's going to pay when you end up in court? How much work is this putting on our bylaw enforcement officer? Do we have the appropriate means to properly enforce this bylaw? I don't think we do. Do we need something? Yes, we do. We need to be able to address the concerns of someone's property being diminished because of what's happening beside it. I don't know that that's true. I haven't talked to an agent or anyone like that, but you know, sometimes talking to people goes a long way. Sometimes just kind of hinting to people, well, maybe, you know, maybe we could get you some help. I've had people come to me and say, I'm a senior citizen. I can't afford to get somebody to come over and clean my yard. I can't afford to have somebody come over and do my grass. So I think all of those issues we have to look at. I feel that this bylaw should go out for public consultation. We should ask the public what they feel about this and get their input on what they feel should be put in the standards yards bylaw. I'm not going to go on ad nauseum of this, but those are my concerns. Those are what's been told to me. And, you know, I think that this shouldn't be an issue that divides this township. And quite frankly, that's what it's doing.
Thank you. I hear everything you've said there. I think we are in a situation where is a standard subjective? If somebody says that looks a total and utter mess, to somebody else that may be okay. If you've got children's toys strewn about all over a front yard, someone may think it's a total mess. Somebody with little children would appreciate that that's okay, the children are just playing and that's where they've left them. So I think we have to have something in place by which our bylaw enforcement agent, Mike here, can go and talk to them. Because he can't even go and talk to them unless there is something that is under contract, that's not being adhered to. Because they can just tell him to basically go away. So I think we have to have something in place, and I do believe it is very subjective otherwise. For him to drive around and say, well, that looks a bit scruffy, or that looks a bit scruffy, or really they ought to tidy that up. It would be wrong for him to have no bone by which that is addressed. Do we understand? Does everybody understand what I've rattled on about? I'm sorry about that, but yeah.
And I'd just like to clarify one thing. This didn't come about as a result of, you know, one complaint or staff pulling something out of thin air. Most of the work that we do here as staff, since I've been here, we refer back to things such as our efficiency review that was done by KPMG, our strategic plan. Those are items we use on our official plans. We use these things on a daily basis in our work. And one of the work plans that was established in the strategic plan was a property standards bylaw, and it was never implemented. It was never brought forward, to my knowledge, to council. So all I'm doing is going through those lists of things that are in our strat plan that have been there for the last 5 years and going, oh, this item has not been done. And it was that document, to my understanding, had extensive public consultation on it before it was ever drafted. I wasn't here, but from what I read in it, it had lots of public consultation. So if sometimes I bring something forward and you go, where the heck did that come from? Those are the documents I use on a day-to-day basis to try and move forward with plans for council. That and our fiscal budgets and directions from this table. But absent of those things, I do reach to the strategic plan for things that I bring forward. So that's where this came from. This was from the strat plan. How you wish to move forward with this or not move forward with this, it doesn't matter to me. It's an item that was in the strat plan that I can now scratch off and say that I brought it forward.
How's the floor?
I'm just looking up there, this is our 8th term of council since South Algonquin came into existence. And I would bet that this subject come up at least once in every one of those terms. And every council said, wow, it's a hot potato, I don't want to touch it. It's going to create a lot of friction. And then last fall during the election, Councillor Kuyak said that the most asked question of her door-to-door campaign was, when are we going to do a property standards bylaw? So I know when we put the draft out there, we got a lot of naysayers. The biggest group that was against it is the group that should be the most concerned. Anybody in the tourist business, they should want Main Street at least to be as good as possible, not a junkyard. If somebody's coming to your motel or your hotel or bed and breakfast, whatever, and they drive by a mess, they're not likely going to come back. Or it could be an influence anyway that they wouldn't come back. If everything looks like neat and tidy, they're more apt to return. So the people that were the most vocal against the bylaw, in my opinion, should be the most vocal for it. Maybe with changes in the bylaw, sure, that's fair. My neighbor's yard was more messy than most others. The threat of the bylaw, the discussion of the bylaw, they cleaned it up for the most part. If that could be done for, there's another couple that are just, they look like disasters. I looked at the one property on top of the hill at Madawaska on the way this morning. And the trees are getting big enough between the vehicles and through the vehicles that you can hardly see them now. You can't see the backyard at all. There's still 3 or 4 vehicles in the front yard. There's probably over 20 vehicles in that yard. And we have no teeth to make the owner clean it up as it is.
I mean, that particular property became an issue when they had a fire on one of them, and the fire appliance couldn't get in. They had to fight that fire from Highway 60 and the disruption that it caused. They couldn't get in because of all of the vehicles that were up there.
I hear Mayor LaValle. I know it's a contentious issue. If she thinks that people can be talked into it, I would be okay with tabling the bylaw. Not doing away with it, putting it on the table, setting it aside so that it can be used as, I don't like to use the word threat, but clean up or else.
A tool.
A tool, yes, that's a good word. Personally, I'm willing to take the flack. I think we need the bylaw, but if there's some way of forcing people, but I know you can't. I know in my heart, properties have been like that for 25 years. They're not going to change. You're not going to be able to talk them into cleaning it up.
It was never ever, a bylaw. I know it's past your time, or before your time, but 40 years ago, I know for a fact, somebody got a letter because they had so many disabled vehicles in their yard from the township. And they were made to clean it up. That was 40 years ago at
Maybe they
least.
just did it just because of intimidation, right?
Yeah,
They just did it.
I don't think
and they
there
cleaned
was,
it up. I mean,
I don't think Erie Township had a property standards
No,
bylaw.
we did. Not that I remember.
No, I don't either.
Mary Valley?
Oh, go ahead, ma'am.
I was just gonna say that we have to do something, whether it's a diluted version of this bylaw. Because at this point, you actually use the word I was gonna use, Joe, but if we don't do anything, we just kind of sweep this one under the carpet again. It's gonna show everybody that this council has no teeth.
I agree with you too. I think a very diluted version of it with suggestions maybe. And this, you may receive a letter sort of thing from bylaw enforcement if you don't adhere to just some basic things. We've got to give Mike something that he uses. He's got to be able to refer back to something because other people say, get off your trespassing. He's got to have something that he can use.
And that's the teeth.
Yeah. Mill Valley, sorry.
I mean, I think Mike did talk to somebody, I don't know where, whatever, one day in the office here, he said he talked to somebody and they had cleaned up something. I don't know what it was. I don't remember. However, I agree with Councilor Florent. I would agree to table this until we can either table or do public consultations on it and get from the public what their concerns really are. I think that we have to hear them on this. Otherwise, this isn't going away. I'm sorry.
I think we have in the past heard a lot of people's comments, and it all tends to be old boat trailers, old travel trailers, construction material. This is what people don't want to see. They're not so worried about the length of the grass or a bush or a tree that's fallen down. It's the actual physical, not environmental. Garbage containers overflowing, this sort of thing.
But when I have I'm sorry.
And I think if we can dilute a standards bylaw to include maybe just those items, I think that will be far more acceptable to the majority of people.
I had a senior call me and she was very, very upset because of the grass thing that she'd been told, and I hadn't talked to this person before, that she was saving money, basically had money, but she couldn't get anybody to come and cut her grass. So what does she do in that kind of a situation? So that's the kind of things that are coming to me.
But unfortunately, this is a lady that won't reach out to Barry's Bay Home Support because they have people on lists that will come and for a very, very reasonable price will take care and cut the lawn, maybe twice throughout the summer or what have you. And this is where we need to offer support to those people. They can't physically do it, but Barry's Bay Home Support, I know, has a list of people that will do minimal little painting job, little fix-it jobs, mow the lawn, etc., etc. Yeah.
I feel like what we did for the short-term rental, sorry, what you did for short-term rental, we should look at doing the same thing. And again, is make our changes and then bring it back, look at it as a council and then go out with it. But I also keep in mind, I think what we needed to look at safety. Why are we doing this? Like, why are we, and most of the time it's safety. I mean, fire hazard, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just being able to emergency vehicles, et cetera, getting onto the property as well as another, safety issue. And then I think as a township, you're saying the seniors, Bears Bay Senior Support but what else can we do? There has to be, a solution for people out there that A, can't afford, or B, just, leaving things there because they don't have the means to get it from A to the dump. So, I think we need to look at it and come with solutions, not just putting forth a bylaw to make sure that everybody's gonna be, compliant.
I mean, are you suggesting maybe that we have a week by which we have our staff, our township staff, going around collecting anything that's put to the verge? I mean, I've seen that happen in other townships.
Rancho Valley does golf.
Yeah.
There's a few places that do it. They
Lorraine,
just do it once or twice a year. Or
The Ogden Valley Waste Recovery Center, the partners to that, all of them, like, I'm not sure if it's through the center or whether it's third party that they arrange a collection day. It's once or twice a year, they do a large collection day throughout their townships. And it goes into the center, which they own and gets disposed of.
The problem I see with that situation is sometimes that garbage sits on the curb for a week or two, like old fridges
Yeah.
and stoves.
Yeah.
Before it's picked up. I don't know if there's a strict schedule to picking it up. I
Yeah.
just want to add one other thing about comments. I only actually had one person call me to address this. Lots of other stuff online and on different Facebook sites. One person called me and she happened to have a rental property, and the rental property is a mess. And she was thanking me for putting this and not to let it go because she wanted some means of making her renter clean up the property.
They got the same call.
I think you did, because she said she had called me. But that's the only one that physically called me. It's just, an added thing, a little different way of looking at it, that sometimes the property owner would like some teeth to be able to get it cleaned up as well. Because the owner may not necessarily be
But
the
they should
resident.
have that in the lease.
They should.
Well,
No,
this situation is a little weird.
Oh, okay, but in fairness, they should have the wording in their lease.
You
to
know,
address it.
does every renter have a lease or a rental agreement? I don't know what it is now, because I haven't rented for like 50 years, but I know like 50 years ago, you just give the guy money at the end of the month. I rented for a few years. I didn't have any agreements or nothing.
That's what happens when you sign a lease, and usually when the lease expires, you just go on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah,
And I think too, the land tenant and tenant act too, so there's.
Yeah.
Do they have the teeth to get them to sign the lease, so that can they enforce it on if they did have to sign the lease?
Okay, so what are we asking then of staff to bring back a very diluted version for us to have a look at?
Diluted public input. Table it maybe. We're so new at this just yet. We don't want to make too many bad friends.
I think send your comments to us, we can dilute it with the comments that's received, put it back in on the table and go from there.
I think, the biggest thing that I am seeing is the grass. Everybody's
Yes.
talking about.
It's the grass.
I don't care about grass. I really don't.
And then we shouldn't have put it down in the bottom. If that's what got people.
but it did say draft.
It did say grass.
And I think that's the purpose, right? We put these together as draft documents for consideration of council, and until they get that draft watermark off them, they're fluid. They need to be changed. We put concepts and ideas into these were areas that might be of concern. And I can tell you that this bylaw, I had written almost word for word in one of my other municipalities. So I know very well that, that grass was part of that issue. So I put it in there. That doesn't mean it can't come out by council, but it's a draft. So what I suggest is council send us all your comments, whatever comments you have related to the bylaw. We will compile those comments, and again, we'll redline the document, we'll make amendments, we'll clean it up the way that we think that council would like it. If there's some comments that are kind of not together, we'll kind of put them in, but we'll leave them well redlined so everyone knows they're there. We can bring it back, council can take another look at it. Then we'll take that, if you're at that point, we can schedule a public meeting to have the public come and take a look at it, or we'll go out into the public and look at it. If you want us to go to Madawaska, we'll go to Madawaska. Let people take a look at it, and maybe from public comments, there may be some additions or deletions that need to be added back in or taken back out once you've spoken to the residents in the community.
All that before posting it.
Yes. Before anyone sees another draft.
Yeah, no, I think the next draft, though, like the next draft, whatever redlining we do here, I mean, it's a public document, it's gonna be posted in your package when I bring it back to the table. That's not even not possible. So
No, no.
it'll become a public document at that point. Council can say, yes, we're happy with what we're seeing here. Insofar as this draft, we're ready to go talk about it in the public. But we're not gonna finalize it until after we've talked to the public. Then we'll get those public input. And council will bring it back to the table for another committee, and committee can say, okay, here's all the things we heard. Do we, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and we'll edit the document one more time to bring it back for a final look at committee before it gets brought to council, if that's the direction. And if maybe at the end of the public meetings, council says, Brian, throw it out, we don't need it. And we'll do that then.
Let's put a timeline on that,
Yes,
on
please.
getting those comments back
For the STR too.
by the end of the month, I think is a reasonable timeline.
Well,
Gives
I will be
everyone
back
10 days.
On the first week of July, so why don't you have it to the 7th of
Good.
July, but the second will be.
Just a minute before we do that. If you're going to react on public comments, shouldn't we have what council is prepared to put out there to the public before we ask for comments? Like, we asked for comments now, we already got it. Like, we got comments for the last 2 months up the union.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go through that process again. I want to have a policy that we're all happy with, or at least the majority of us are
That is
happy,
workable.
before we go to the public again. Yeah, I really don't want more comments right now.
And just one comment that I have to make, you wouldn't take a washer, dryer, or a refrigerator, or a freezer to the dump without removing the doors so that nobody could get trapped in there. So why is neglected vehicles that have been there for 20 years or old machinery any different just because it's on somebody's yard? I would hate to have, from a safety perspective, anybody end up getting hurt because they kept an old freezer out in the backyard because they were going to store it and have a child who shouldn't be on that property, but hey, is, and then locked into a thing that they can't get out of.
Well, that's the kind of things that probably should be in the property standards bylaw. And you could go to a public meeting and defend that thought. And most reasonable people would agree. There's gonna be some people that aren't reasonable,
Right.
no matter what you put out there, they're gonna be against it.
Oh, it's my property, I can do with it what I like.
I've
Is
heard
what
that
I've
one.
heard.
Or like that open well where that,
Yes.
Oh, yes.
at the
can.
daycare, where,
Yes.
where
Yeah,
the
where the
little 3-year-old
child-
child.
Absolutely. Mela Valley, you.
I was just
had
gonna
some comments.
suggest that there should be, the public consultation should be both in Whitney and Madawaska.
Okay, yeah, I think that goes without saying, yeah. So comments, if
Use
you've
the
got,
comments we've already got.
use the comments we've got. If councillor can think of anything else, get them to Tracy, please, on the short-term rental policy and obviously the yard standard by the 7th,
If you
Tracy.
do it by 7th, then I can start working on the 10th.
Okay,
7th of July.
7th of July, please.
I
Sooner,
can do some-
sooner, if you can.
Why you want us to do this in 2 weeks?
Yes, sooner if possible.
Council's looking at it.
You back on the 7th, you're not back till the 9th, are you?
I'm not back until the 9th or the 10th, but
Yeah.
if you have it to be then, if they're in my inbox waiting for me to come.
Okay, new business, Committee of Adjustment and AMO training.
Oh, yes. So there was lots of emails going back and forth about this training, so, so there's the AMO, AMO's new counselor training. So there's the different dates, it's 27th, 20th of October and November 28th. Sessions are from 9 to 5. Register here for new council training. So who is doing what and where? I know that Lori had said that you wanted to.
Yeah, whenever.
Because it's online by the sounds of it. So
Right.
you can- Yeah, the look of it, I think you can register yourself, I think,
Okay.
is my understanding, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think they can, I mean, if they want, we can register them
Yeah.
just as easily if they want to go, I
You can
mean.
go any of those dates, you don't have to go within. Because I believe it's all online.
I had registered for the October 27th,
September 27th or October 20th.
the October date I registered.
I thought you're already in, okay.
Yeah, I think I'm in.
So I thought, I was under the impression that if it was online or whatever, that we could do it together here. Is that correct or can't?
You know,
It's this person's-
as a rule, AMO doesn't necessarily come out to a community.
No, but like
Online.
online here.
But
together
yes, I
as a
could,
group.
if everybody wanted to do it as a group, we could
That's
certainly
fine.
put it up on the screen here. Council could come in and do a training session with AMO. And collectively, you know, questions that are gonna be asked are known amongst the group. If that's how council wishes to entertain doing that, certainly. I mean,
It'd be cheaper, right?
Yeah, you might be able to get a discount if we all come in here in one place. You know,
I would assume you just have to pay one.
one.
potentially. We'll just confirm with them that, you know, we're gonna have a group in a room and make sure that that's the way they play it, or that's likely the way they'll work it.
The way,
So
Right during the hunt, Sean.
which one?
That's what it sounded like.
I think it
You have a
is.
tag to go on.
I don't know when the hunt is either.
I don't either, but can we ascertain a date then, a definitive date?
Well, there's 2 dates available.
3 dates, there's September
September was
27th,
another.
October 20th, Merle Valley, so she's already signed up for, and then there's November
I
20th.
don't have that, I put in here that I want to go.
Oh, you put in here, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't do anything.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so it might
Did
have,
you do anything yet? with it?
no, it's in my, I was waiting, I didn't bother with others,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden we said, we'll talk about it at committee, I said, I'll wait and register it.
So then October 20th is obviously.
I would prefer not, because I hope to be going away.
What
like
about
that
September
area.
27th or November
Either other
28th?
day.
November 28th, the deer hunt's over.
I can't do the 27th, I'm sorting a wedding out. My
Oh.
baby's getting married.
November 28th then, Merle Valley, you're available November 28th?
I have to look, but that's fine, whatever. you want.
Then we can make plans for the Christmas party.
We could make
It's
Christmas
a long
party.
ways away, but
November the 28th sounds very reasonable to me.
Well,
And
and
that-
Brian or I will look into if we can do a group session for November 28th. How that.
And which one is that? Is that
That's the, AMO new counselor thing.
Newcastle?
Committee of Adjustment,
No, that's the AMO
yeah,
one.
no, the next one,
Oh,
is
the next one.
the
yeah.
next one that you have to deal with, the committee.
But yeah, so the committee of adjustment one is, it's online based, so I think you can work at your own pace. So if I put it in as a hopeful council doing it, or how many other counselors, it's a little cheaper. I think it's individual $75. But if you're interested, all I have to do is send you a link and then you set it up. So I just need to know who would be in those sessions.
I
Send me the
would
link.
certainly.
Joan, I think.
Yeah.
What, is there dates on them?
No, I believe it should work at your own pace.
How many
I don't
hours,
like the sound of that word, work.
how many hours do they,
Exams.
how many hours do they suggest it would take?
It's on that link, I have to look. There's like, what, 5, I think, different
I'm
sections.
looking.
5 or 6.
I would like to do that as well then, please.
yeah, me too. I thought that it was the same new counselor one.
No,
Okay,
I think I would sign up for it, pay for it, and then I put your emails in, and then you get a link and you work at your own pace,
Okay.
is my understanding over. So Ethel, Joan, Sandra, Bill, Lori, Joe,
Sean, was your hand up?
Yeah, I
Leslie?
have my hand up.
Sean.
sorry, Simon.
I don't want to be the only one not doing it, but
Well, there you go. then.
Sounds like, oh, that's, okay. All right, I can do that anytime, so.
so can I just quickly in my mind review what we're gonna do now with this draft, the standard bylaw? we're gonna read comments to the council by July 7th,
To Trace.
to Tracy.
Tracy, yeah.
And it's coming back to us. Is that what it is, or we're going out to the public immediately?
No, it's coming back to council.
Coming back to council.
Okay, well,
Because
that
so,
won't be till September then.
right,
That way council's somewhat comfortable with it before it goes to public to be told.
yeah,
That's what I thought.
we've got to be able
Yeah.
to stand behind it before we go out to the public with
Yeah.
it. And
And then-
and support it.
And then after it receives public comment,
And it comes back.
then it comes back to council again and council decides whether to proceed or
To make changes or scrap it, whatever you want, right?
There
So we're
won't be,
proceeding
it'll
then.
be December.
sounds like the right way to do it.
That's still the same one, right? There's no other.
Hmm.
Okay. Does
Are
anyone?
we taking out anything from the draft before we go public again, or is it going to stay as it is?
No, well, before it
We'll
goes
go
back
with this.
out, it'll come back to this table as a revised draft.
Revised, okay.
And this council will then decide if they're happy with it, we can go to the public then. And if the public, after the public meeting, we'll bring it back, council can say, amend it, leave it as it is, throw it out.
We're gonna dilute it.
The
Yeah.
one that was out there, that's taken off the site, right? It's not there anymore.
Well, it's part of the package, so I mean, it's in a package for today, right? So it's obviously there. It's not gonna be by itself, but it's gonna be in the package that's on.
So can we minute, please, that the draft that was out there is being removed and being diluted? I think that needs to be minuted.
Put that in there.
Thank you. Does anyone have any else that they wish to discuss?
In regards to this or?
Yes.
other?
I mean, part of this meeting, PR, public relations, and this is how the council perceives, we are perceived as a council by our township and by the rest of the province and the rest of the world, really. So I think we need to have been seen to do this properly, because PR is important.
Absolutely.
We do not want to be seen to be the council that have done nothing about this. In light of Montreal and the disaster there with the short-term rental, in light of the fact that we have no long-term rental at all in our township, is causing real problems for our businesses. And the fact that we have property being devalued because of the state of other people's yards, I think we need to be seen from a PR perspective to be a council that is prepared to do something about these items.
I just have a comment in regards to that public relations. I think we're township, everybody's quick to point, and we need to change that, right? We need to be able to say, come to us, we'll try to do something. Might not be perfect, and it might take a little bit, but at the end game, we'll address what that is, if it's something that we can address. But I think from a public relations standpoint, we as a council really need to work hard on that. Both Lori and I and Ethel ended up getting, screamed and shouted at from a various person that didn't get what he wanted. Well, okay, great, that's fine. But at the next time, maybe we need to look at what does the township do when they have these requests? Do we have, what did you call it, swag? Do we have swag that's in the corner so that we could, give and contribute, or do we do nothing at all? But whatever we do, we really need to work on the community's perspective of us that sit around the table. Right? And I don't know how to do that, but other than, recognition, trying our hardest to, make a fair and a fair process versus just, a hard no or not no or whatever. I really feel that we need to work on that.
I think council has already made a statement at Anna Lake because of what's going on in the parking lot now. Things are finally happening there, sort of, but at least something is happening. At least something is happening there, right?
We're trying.
We're trying, the Ministry of Natural Resources is being
They're holding up our site plan, but.
Yeah.
I think we all as councillors need to realise as well that we should be working for the 90%, not the 10%, because it's unfortunate. It's the 10% that stand up and shout the loudest usually. What about the rest of the 90% that we were elected to represent? And I think we need to be very, very aware of that with regards to something a little bit contentious. You have 1 or 2 people screaming their heads off about it, and the rest of the other 95% are behind you. So,
Waiting.
yeah, they're waiting for us to do something.
Look at that. I went that whole meeting, couldn't find my official plan. It's right there.
Okay, can I have a proposer and second to adjourn this meeting, please?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, councillor Thorne, and seconded by councillor Pichon. Meeting adjourned at 11:42. Oh, all in favour? Sorry. Meeting adjourned 11:42. Thank you very much, everybody.
About 90% is